Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I have Logan with me. Logan, how you doing?
Doing great, Jamie. Had a great holiday, and I'm glad to be back. How about you?
Christmas was good. I've probably gained 5 pounds. uh, way
It
too,
happens,
yeah,
man.
way too much turkey and stuffing. But and the thing is about Christmas in the UK, we tend to eat that kind of food for like 2 weeks. So that's like a lot of weight I have to lose. But yeah, it's been a good time. And we had a few weeks off for Christmas because, nothing really happens in January other than the past week. But yeah, it's good to be back. We have a lot to talk about. And everyone in chat, just let me know if the audio's coming through because every time we have any weeks off, I have a brain fart and I forget everything. So just let me know in chat. Anyway, so today we have a lot to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about what you've been playing, Logan, because, over the Christmas break, people tried to run through, like, the latest new games or the backlog or whatever.
Well, I've been plowing through my backlog. I don't know. I've been on a puzzle fix lately, and just I played Relicta, which was really interesting. Sci-fi puzzle narrative game. Really difficult. Some of the puzzles like make you want to scream, but really fun. The dialogue's kind of cringy. The story's okay, but if you're just looking for good puzzles, I highly recommend it. It uses a lot of like cubes in your gloves and like magnetic laws and stuff like that, and color codes and teleporters and stuff. I just beat through that, and then now I'm on the original cube, and I had beat the second one, loved it, and so I thought, you know what, I'd go back and I'd play the new one, the remastered original one, and it's been a lot of fun, man. How about you?
I did actually play a Cube when it came out. I'll admit I actually did have to use a few YouTube guides. If a puzzle game isn't called Portal, I'm terrible at it. But yeah, pretty much been playing Crisis Core over the past few weeks and some Mass Effect. I know that'll shock everyone listening. I just can't put that game down. But I'm gonna rant about Square Enix in probably like 20 minutes or something. But I will say this: I got Crisis Core reunion for Christmas, and it's probably one of my favorite Final Fantasy games ever made. And like I'm one of those nerds that like Final Fantasy 7 I loved as a kid, but 10 really resonated with me when that came out, and I think it was 2001. And I just loved that game. Cheesy as hell. The laugh scene is like still cringe inducing to almost put me in a coma. It's that cringe, but Crisis Core was so good because I'm so used to these JRPGs that are 90 hours long, that have 10 hours of tutorials. And this game literally starts with a cool cutscene, which I actually have in the video playing in the minute. Should be like 5 minutes from now. But like the game literally says, this is how you fight, go. And it's semi-open, it's kind of hub-based, a bit like Mass Effect, and it's like a 20-hour long Mass Effect game. And I loved it from start to finish, and it has a lot of callbacks. So if you played Final Fantasy VII, the original, back in the 90s, or recently, it's available on Xbox, there's a few flashback scenes, and in this game, you actually play through them. And even though I hadn't played Final Fantasy VII all the way through in like 20 years, the nostalgia hit. And I was like, oh my god, I remember this scene as a child. And it just kind of blew my mind. And I loved it. Did you play the original, by the way?
Yep. I played through the original. I was on the final boss last time I played it. It's been ages, but yeah, I played through Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, it has a lot of callbacks, and it explains a lot because the original Final Fantasy VII doesn't really explain a lot when it comes to Sephiroth. In this game, it definitely does. But yeah, 20 hours long, 30 to 35 hours if you do like 100% stuff. And it's the only Final Fantasy game I've played where it has easy achievements. Like, potentially you can get everything in one playthrough. Very chapter specific, though. There's like 11 chapters in the game. So if people are going to get the game and do the achievements, I highly recommend Googling chapters with achievements for the game because you'll miss some, like I did, and I feel like I fell because of it. But outside of that, lots of Mass Effect, lots of Hard Space Shipbreaker, and honestly, I'm just waiting for the next lot of games because, like, Game Pass titles are coming soon, such as Age of Empires 2 releases on Xbox in a few weeks, which is a big deal because we've been waiting for. Let's face it, there's people have been wanting more Game Pass titles, because we didn't get a second list in December because it was Christmas and all that stuff, and we're going to be getting a bigger list possibly during the January event. It looks like that's going to be the case, which we'll be talking about later in the show. But yeah, like, if you look at all the games coming out this year, a lot of these games were meant to come out like last year or the year before, but like this year is probably going to rival 2007 and 2010. I'm just looking forward to the year, but yeah, we'll get on with the rest of the topics. Anyway, good gaming all around. But yeah, if people are enjoying the show, we're back every week, all that stuff. So if you enjoy the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Really helps the channel out. Super chats are live if you want anything read out or any questions done. Anyway, we'll move on. So Ubisoft. Now, I am not one of these people that hates on Ubisoft. I like a lot of their games. They made some of my favourite games, such as Splinter Cell Conviction, Splinter Cell Blacklist. One of my favourite franchises, Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, Far Cry, the list goes on. They even had some 360 air combat games called Hawks, which were really cool flight combat games. And they've had a lot of trouble over the past few years because Yves Guillemot from, the head of Ubisoft, clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. People at Ubisoft are basically revolting. And Ubisoft's kind of basically just telling all the employees you have to knuckle down and get the games done and all this stuff. So anyway, in the past few weeks, they've cancelled 3 games. The Star Wars game is still coming. Avatar is still coming. And yeah, Beyond Good and Evil, they confirmed this yesterday, is still in development and it's coming. So they cancelled them games. They also cancelled, I think it was 4 games last year. And Ubisoft's in a bad place because if you look back, every single year they have 1 or 2 huge titles, be it Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon Wildlands back in the day did like 25 million copies. And they haven't had that success in maybe 2 years. Valhalla was probably their last big release because, Far Cry 6 didn't really have that much of a, hype cycle. They're still putting out expansions for it, but nobody really talks about it. And the next big game Ubisoft has is Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is a callback to early Assassin's Creed games. I honestly think it's going to sell millions because there's people like me, nerds that want the old style, Assassin stuff. And this game's going to combine elements of the new games and the old games. And it's just sad to see Ubisoft in such a bad way. Like, Logan, what's your thought on this? Because it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's a massive deal. Ubisoft used to be one of my favorite publishers. Like I used to, see that little swirl on the game case. I knew I was getting a good title, and I'd really enjoy it. Hasn't been that way lately for me personally. I'm not the biggest fan of how open world intensive and heavy and kind of just copy and paste some of their formula is across their franchises. Overall, I've liked some of the stuff they've done mechanically and to implement into their games. And I'm excited that they are going back and trying out some older style Assassin's Creed, more intimate, narrative focused, smaller, toned down scale that doesn't have 30 hours of finding chickens and delivering letters and other stuff like that across a gargantuan map. So I'm looking forward to it. The leadership sounds not so hot right now. It's very much like our favorite company to talk about, Square.
Yeah.
It's kind of, they are what they are at this point, and basically, I don't know if it was me, I probably wouldn't just tell them to knuckle down and get over it about things not going well and that it sounds like a whole lot of not my problem, just go fix it. Like, I'm not sure how well that's going to be received. And apparently, it sounds like it's not being received well because they are talking about striking and revolting at least one or two of the studios of Ubisoft. So they have that, the lack of sales, canceling games, games getting delayed. The Prince of Persia remake has interestingly enough had kind of resurfaced recently. I've been seeing that account active and actually posting stuff, and it looks like they've made some progress. So there is a candle of hope burning there. And then there was a Splinter Cell tease the other day, which caught my eye. And Good and Evil 2 is somehow still alive, which is awesome. And then everybody's favorite joke pirate game, Skull and Bones has been paused again. It's just like, what is going on? Like, it just and then just not figure this out? Do they just not know what they actually want to do for the game? Have they been expanding and shrinking the scope so much they've lost track of the goal? Like, I don't know. It's just very weird.
You know, you bring up Skull and Bones, and that reminds me, like, it's just faced its sixth delay. Sixth. And, like, that's a lot of delays. Like, people will talk about, like, first-party delays or whatever, and, like, trying console war and stuff, but, like, Ubisoft has delayed that almost an entire generation. I put it like this. Like, I don't own a $1 billion company, and everyone in chat is smarter, including myself, than the people that run Ubisoft at the minute, because they launched Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, this open world pirate Assassin's Creed game, at the launch of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and it was massive, absolutely massive. Sold like 14 million copies or something. It did ridiculous numbers. And it kind of brought more life to the Assassin's Creed franchise, and it brought all these new fans to the franchise that just wanted this open world cool pirate game. And, you know, it did so well. Most companies would be like, okay, right, we're going to get some expansions out for it and make a sequel, because sequels pretty much guarantee money if they're that popular. And they decided to make this expansion that was multiplayer centric. Okay, fair enough. You want to do a multiplayer boat to boat, ship combat thing. Fine, people will like it. And then they said, oh, it's going to be that big, we're going to have it as its own game. And like 3 years go by, and then on the launch of the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro was already out, and all these companies want to put out these games with impressive visuals, and Ubisoft were like, look at this game, it looks amazing, it's open world pirate game, it's online only, and it's just ship to ship battles. And it's like, that is not what people wanted. Like, we wanted the open world pirate experience where you could swing from one ship onto another and assassinate the crew and all that stuff, And they went with this games as a service thing that nobody wants. And it's just been delayed year after year after year. They changed the price recently in the UK to £70. By the way, that's not going to sell. And we'll be talking about the £70 price tag in a bit. But, like, I don't see any hype for this game. And Ubisoft's blatantly relying on this, and they have to release the game. They can't cancel it. I think it's due to I can't remember which government, but basically a government helped fund Skull and Bones, and they have to release it by law. So the product they get out has to at least be good and try and recoup its money back. And they are pretty much, they've painted themselves into a corner because people blatantly don't want this game. And, there are people I do see online that say they are looking forward to it, and that's cool. And I hope this game sells well. I will never wish for a game to sell badly. That is the last thing I want. But, like, I'll be interested. Is anyone in chat genuinely excited for just ship-to-ship battles, no on-foot stuff, no swinging from one ship to another and doing, sword fights, just ship-to-ship online battles? Is that what people want? Like, that's not what I want. And I loved Assassin's Creed 4. I played that non-stop. Like, that was a launch title for Xbox One. That was probably my most played game that year. And it's just a bit worrying. And then you have Splinter Cell, where we got a teaser trailer about a year and a half ago for this remake. And it's like, that's cool. We got a tease the other day of a picture of the goggles. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I love Splinter Cell. And like even today, they put out a skin for Rainbow Six Siege, which is basically Sam Fisher. And I was shook. Because when you're scrolling through your feed on Twitter and you see a picture of Sam Fisher under an official Ubisoft post, I could have screamed. And it's like, no, it's Rainbow Six skin, a game I don't care about. And it just seems like it's just going on and on for years. And it's like, I want them to succeed. Because if you look at what they were like 10, 12 years ago, they came out with, Splinter Cell Conviction, Blacklist, Far Cry 3, which sold millions basically on word of mouth in the UK. They had, Assassin's Creed was in its prime. Everyone loved every entry. I'll even defend, Assassin's Creed 3. Ghost Recon was in a weird place because they're experimenting with, closed worlds and all that stuff. But Ubisoft have the potential to be the best third-party, developer and publisher, and they're just not doing it. They keep messing up. And the thing that really bothered me is that in Yves Guillemot's post to his employees, he was like, we have to focus on big brands and live service titles. And it's like, no, that's not what people want. They've been concentrating on pushing live service elements in all their games for years, and those are the elements people don't like. We love Assassin's Creed. We don't want time savers and all that crap. Nobody wants that stuff. Far Cry used to be this amazing open world game, and they just putting these mild live service elements in. It's like, these gamers that play Destiny in The Division, they aren't going elsewhere. They have their game that they're going to be playing for weeks, months, and years. Like, is there really a market for that? Because it's been proven time and time again that these live service games that's meant to hook you and make you play every single week to get your skins and level up and all that stuff don't work out. Anthem, Avengers, granted they both had horrifically bad launches, but like nobody's playing them now. Nobody's talking about them. And I think it's just a shame because they made amazing games and now it's just live service game. Every game has to have light RPG elements. Like Assassin's Creed is like Ghost Recon, and Ghost Recon is like Watch Dogs now. They're all the same game, and I think that's horrible. Like, and I love all those franchises I just mentioned, by the way. If I were to post a picture of my shelf, you'll see that most of the games are made by Ubisoft. I just like their games, but I don't know, Logan, like, do you think the Ubisoft format used to be joking about towers that open up sections of the map? Now they have RPG elements with semi-stealth and light upgrade trees. Do you think that that's kind of wearing thin now?
Yeah, I think the Ubisoft formula is definitely kind of run dry, and patience has waned significantly in the community. Like there are some people who are, devout, Ubisoftites, and they're just like, okay, Assassin's Creed, no matter what, every year I'm getting it, and I'm gonna play through it, do all the quests. This is my franchise, like I'm just all about anything I can do with it. And then there are others who are more like, I enjoyed it when it was more of like a tailored experience with like Altair during the Crusades in Jerusalem, or Ezio during the Renaissance in Rome, and stuff like that. Or, in Assassin's Creed 4 with the pirates, Conway. It seems like they've strayed so far from their original identity, and that they've been trying to like catch lightning in a bottle with these trends that are going on from other companies. It's just not their expertise, where it's clearly not working. Where it's maybe they should revisit and scale down some things to make it more of a quality, enjoyable experience than just bloating everything. Like sometimes I know a lot of people hate the expression, but the less is more thing I think really does apply sometimes in the gaming. Like just because a game can be open world does not mean it should be, and there are some games that are just too big for their own good. Like more content is not always a good thing. Sometimes it's filler content to try to justify a price or dev hours or this or that, and it feels like they've reached that point. I hope they turn around and fix it because I loved some of the creative stuff they've done, like Child of Light, beautiful, fantastic story, fairy tale type game. I wish they would make a sequel. And like some of their other more niche, smaller titles have been really good, but they're not giving those chances. Hopefully, they're resurrecting Prince of Persia and Splinter Cell, but overall, I just don't feel so hot on them right now. I hope they figure it out. And if you listen to some in the know, like Grub and some others were talking about it, that apparently they've been knocking on some doors and talking to some people about sales for their company. Period. And they've been laughed at, and nobody thinks they're a good bet right now to merge with or to acquire. It's like if like not for like what happened to Activision Blizzard where there was rampant toxicity and all this legal stuff that we don't even have to go into, but those who follow know what I'm talking about. It hasn't been to that scale, but it's just been this overall dysfunction to where people are just not so hip on Ubisoft and they're really tanking, and I hope they figure it out.
Yeah, you mentioned Assassin's Creed before. It's like if I were to think back to Assassin's Creed 2, which came out in what 2009, 2008, something like that. Like I remember that story beat for beat, the characters, the side missions, and all that stuff. Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out 2 years ago, and if you'd asked me what the plot was about, I couldn't tell you. Like gorgeous game, absolutely stunning game, great gameplay, but nobody cares about the story, and that's a big problem. And notice that Assassin's Creed games now are basically wide open fields for miles and miles and miles. They're not doing cities anymore. Like we have some cities in Valhalla, but they're tiny. Like I live in the UK, our cities aren't big, and in the games they're even smaller. And I just think it's a shame. Again, I think Mirage is going to be great for them. It's set in Damascus, I think. Uh, oh no, sorry, Baghdad. And it looks fantastic from what we've seen. And that's rumored to come out in August. The original rumor was March. I'm leaning towards August now because they haven't showed anything. Star Wars is going to be shown this year. And, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, that's going to come out this year. Although they did miss a trick for not releasing that alongside the film because that film's going to cost $2 billion this week. And if they had a game out just in time, it would have sold millions. And although I will say this, I don't have a problem with first person or third person games. I will say this, I think them going first person for Avatar is a horrifically bad idea. I don't know if anyone else on the internet mentioned this, but Logan, what do you think? Like, wouldn't you want to see your character in an Avatar game? Or am I just crazy?
Yeah, I feel like that's part of the experience. Like the whole Avatar thing is like you have become this 9 foot tall blue cat dude or dudette, and you're flying around with a spear, and you have these aquatic dragons and flying beasts and air bow and arrows, and you're fighting mechs and all this stuff. Like you would want to see your character, or at least have it. They could go the old school Bethesda method and have a first and a third person, but going first person only seems like an odd choice to me.
Yeah, I mean, I get what they want to do. They want to have you in the character and play it as a Navi. But I don't know. I think it would be fun to see your character. And again, it never really bothers me. People brought up third person mode when Cyberpunk was coming out, and I just shook my head. I'm like, okay, it's going to be a good game regardless. But I don't know. I'm such a fan of the film that I would love to see my character. I'm just one of the few people complaining about that. To be honest, I'm still going to buy it. I know for a fact I'm going to buy that bloody game when it releases. Anyway, we'll move on. That's enough about Ubisoft. So, some previews came out today about Atomic Heart. Now, we're not going to talk about any of the ethical issues or any of that stuff on this because, honestly, the developers behind the game have no involvement. Everyone knows this. People just like to play the blame game with this stuff. However, it's a alternate Soviet-era Bioshock style game, and it was originally shown in I think 2018. I was blown away by it. I was like one of the few people on Twitter at the time talking about this game nobody ever heard of. And over the past year we got some more trailers. It got announced for Game Pass. It releases in I think it's late February, and they've been putting out trailer after trailer ever since. and they confirmed yesterday it's going to be 4K, dynamic 4K, which I think everyone's fine with, 60 FPS on Xbox Series X, and the gameplay looks amazing. It's had some great previews. I'm personally looking forward to it because I love Bioshock style games. If a developer has a game out and it just remotely resembles Bioshock, I'm kind of sold on it. And Logan, what do you think of this? Because its early previews seem to be doing so well.
It looks awesome to me. Like you have these robot girls that remind me of Edie from Mass Effect 3, and then like they showed a new robot today that was like this kind of looked like I'm trying to remember the big thick white robot from a Disney Pixar film.
Oh, Baymax.
Yeah, big Baymax. Yeah, kind of looks like that. And just spins around and like damages and stuff, and then all the weapons and like the Soviet post-apocalyptic, like just futuristic. Just it looks so bizarre yet so fantastic at the same time. Definitely scratches that Bioshock itch, and yeah, it's day one in Game Pass. Like feels like not a lot of people talk about that. It's kind of like a forgotten game coming to Game Pass, but yeah, it's gonna be in Game Pass, and that's a big hit right there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the recent press releases I read about it was basically the plot's about you're in a Soviet-era facility, or an alternate Soviet-era facility that's been taken over by automatons that were created in World War II. Like, that's a cool plot, in my opinion. You did mention the robot that looks like Edie. The internet's going to have a field day with that. I'll tell you that now. But yeah, the game looks great. And when it comes to gameplay, like I've said before, Bioshock. I need that Bioshock itch, and this looks like it's going to scratch it. And I don't know, like people seem to be excited about it. Like, forget all the stuff on Twitter and people complaining about stuff. Like, it's being published by Focus Home Entertainment. They change the name every other month. I keep forgetting. But
Great publisher.
Yeah, great publisher. But like Focus Entertainment, great publisher, damn good publisher. But yeah, the game looks great. It releases in, I think it's like a month and a week. Again, it looks fantastic. You're probably going to be able to pre-download it soon. There's no mention of ray tracing yet, although there is on the PC version. Although I don't think that shocks anyone. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fun game. And again, that's been in development for years now. You know, before we start talking about Square Enix, because this is going to be one that's it's going to be something. Again, if people enjoying the show, we're about half an hour in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Really helps the channel out. Super chats are live, all that nonsense. So, Square Enix. Now, early in the show, I started talking about Crisis Core and how I got it for Christmas and how I loved it. I finished it, all that stuff. And if people are telling me, like, Jamie, I don't want to buy it because, you're funding other games for Square Enix and all that stuff, and I completely understand. I think if people want to play it, get it in a sale or whatever. It's an amazing game. It's one of the best Final Fantasy games I've ever played. It's probably one of the best games I played in 2022. And that said, like, I completely understand people not wanting to support Square Enix. Sony signed a deal with Square Enix for lifetime exclusivity for this game. I should say the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And whenever I bring up, like, Crisis Core, there's always someone in the comments saying, you have to support this game to get more games, to get the remake. And it's like, Sony have lifetime exclusivity, apparently, for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I don't want people to go out and spend their hard-earned money on hope, right? Because that is just silly. Spend your money on what you want. And honestly, the way Square Enix has advertised Crisis Core is a bit hilarious because they keep saying this is the full Final Fantasy VII experience. And then when you play the game, it's crystal clear they're using character models from the remake. Like certain buildings, cars, definitely character models, but lower polygon count. But outside of that, like, it's very much in line with the remake. I'll just put that out there. We talked about this before the show, Logan. I know, like, what's your thought on this? Because like Crisis Core it's a great game. And I'll talk about the sales numbers in a bit, but like people's stance on not wanting to buy it, I'm completely cool with. But at the same time, it's like I think it's a good game people should enjoy.
Yeah, I'm torn on it to be honest because I didn't have a PSP. I had a Vita, so I never played Crisis Core. It was one I always wanted to play, and Final Fantasy VII is one of the best story games I've ever played. Period. And I've been really wanting to play the remake, but obviously Square Enix has other plans for Xbox on that. I mean, it seems to be, and it sucks, and that's just the way it is, I guess. But yeah, I do feel a little salty and a little bitter about it. And I'm kind of like, why would I buy the prequel if I'm never gonna get the bloody second part? Like, it's like watching a cliffhanger. Watching a film you know ends on a cliffhanger and you never get that resolution to the story. Ever. Even though, yes, it is a game that came out 20 years ago and you can play the original one, and oh, there's been all these stories and this online, you can find it, whatever. The point remains, it's just on principle, it really bothers me. And it irritates me. And the fact that Square games go on sale incredibly frequently and pretty soon after launch because they fail to meet expectations. It's just what happens with Square titles, I guess. They're just not in a good zone. Forspoken was comically bad. The demo when it came out, like just the dialogue, just cringe, and just their obsession with NFTs. They're just blood alliance with Sony basically. It's madness, and I want to play their games. I grew up on them. It used to be you see the Square logo and you knew you were getting an excellent game. Like Final Fantasy X, phenomenal. Final Fantasy VII, Tactics, all these games. But now it's like I'll buy it because I think it'll be fun, but I'm definitely going to wait a while because I don't want to buy that full price. I could support another developer or studio I know who actually cares about the platform and has shown a willingness to bring further content. Until I see a change in Square Enix operandus, I'm probably just gonna be a strictly sales guy for them.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get it. It's like to get the prequel and not the remake is a bit weird in the way they've been advertising it. Like, get the full experience by playing the prequel. It's like it's a bit weird. Square Enix are just strange. I guarantee you, about a month from now, maybe 2 months, they will complain about sales numbers. And I'll talk about Xbox sales numbers because people have been saying that Xbox sold between 6 and 8% in the UK boxed sales. And I tell you why people shouldn't be laughing at that number, because the Switch outsold the Xbox in the UK. The PlayStation 4 outsold Xbox in the UK. So they would obviously sell the least amount of copies, right? That mathematically that works out. Xbox should technically sell the least amount of copies of Crisis Core because there's less consoles. However, Xbox gamers have even less of a reason to want to buy the game because of the whole Square Enix situation. So 6 to 8% is actually okay. And then you have to look at the number of games sold in the UK physically. It's dropped to like 60% physical games. Like, I should say 60% digital. It changes all the time. But my point is that the number of people have been throwing around and making fun of, it's like the number that it sold well. Like, I put it like this, everyone in chat, should this game sell well on Xbox just regardless? And I have a $5 super chat by Kirby O'Louise. Thank you very much. He said, if you haven't modded your Vita, there's never been a better time. All you do is type a URL into the web browser and then install two things, sub 5 min. Really? I did not. See,
Awesome. Thanks for the advice.
yeah, I didn't know that. I thought for modern like things like Vitas and all that stuff, I thought that you had to plug it into a PC and like go all like 90s hacker mode. Like, bear in mind, I know absolutely nothing about modding and emulation and all that stuff. And I think when it comes to the whole modern scene, when it comes to gaming and stuff, I think it's really cool what people can do. And like when it comes to the Vita and all that stuff, I was going to get a Vita maybe 10 years ago, but the price in the UK shot way high, and I'm talking like £300. Like you're able to get like an Xbox One or PlayStation 4 for that price, and now it's like next to impossible. I still have my PSP though. But yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for letting me know, and thanks for the $5 super chat, first of the year. Thank you very much. You know what? I might actually try and get a Vita second hand at some point just to mess about with it. But yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Square Enix. Look, I don't expect people to go out and buy the game just on faith, and that's cool. I will say this, for the people that are enjoying it, I'll spend 30 seconds telling you about why it's good and its performance. So on Xbox Series X, it's 4K 60 FPS. On Series S, it's 1080p 60 FPS. On Xbox One X, it's 4K 30 FPS. And also, the game has a bunch of quality of life improvements, so you can pause the menu, or hit the pause menu, and you actually have access to vendors, so you don't have to go to specific stores to buy portions. So if you're having trouble in a certain dungeon, you just pause the game and buy portions. And you get so much money in the game. I literally had too many portions. And it's just really cool, relaxed game. The combat is super simple. It's action-based. Literally press X to hit, to melee combat, and hold the bumper and press one button for magic spells using materia. Super simple combat. Honestly, possibly my favorite Final Fantasy action-based combat. And that's me, rambling on about that game for a day. But yeah, great game. But again, if people don't want to buy it because of all the Square Enix stupidity, it's understandable. I get it. And the funny thing is, they've been getting into NFTs. They want to do more blockchain stuff, and it's like, that's not what gamers want. We just want titles. And it just came out before Christmas that the Pixel remasters. This triggered me, by the way. The Pixel remasters are going to Switch, PlayStation. They're already on PC. They're already on mobile. They're going to be on your grandmother's microwave. Everything except Xbox. It's like, really? Those pixelated Final Fantasy games we don't even get? We get Crisis Core. The beautiful cutscenes, beautiful performance, but we don't get the pixelated 30-year-old Final Fantasy games. Are you out of your freaking mind, Square Enix? That doesn't even make sense. I've been banging on about it for years how they should release the classic games on modern consoles, and they skip Xbox but put Crisis Core on. That doesn't make any sense. Logan, you have to admit that is pretty crazy.
It's madness. The fact that they're releasing something that basically you could play on a Game Boy Advance and just not putting it. I'm putting on everything but an Xbox is just. It's just insanity. It's peak Square. It's like we release all these classic game remasters like Trials and Saga of Mana and Pixel remasters of Final Fantasy, and then all these games coming to all modern platforms except Xbox if you look in the fine print. It's just, I don't know if there's just some leadership drama or contractual thing with Sony or what, but there is just, speaking as someone with no inside knowledge on the topic whatsoever, it just on the outside seems like something weird. I don't get it. I don't know if it's personal, I don't know if it's a contract thing, whatever it is, for some reason Xbox and them just are not hand in hand walking down the street singing Kumbaya like they are with Sony. And it's just, it's understandable, I guess, in some categories, but it's just really irritating as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, they put Crisis Core on Xbox, they put Star Ocean: The Divine Force on Xbox, but not the pixelated 30-year-old games. Like, it's kind of hilarious because that's such a Square Enix thing to do, and it's like I would love to be able to play Final Fantasy like 3 or 6. I get them mixed up, basically the same game depending on territory, but whatever. I would love to be able to play those on an Xbox because I never had a Super Nintendo as a kid, so I would love to be able to play them on a modern console. And even though I do have the Nintendo Super Mini Classic thing, but I can't be bothered to plug it in, and I want me achievements. like, uh, but yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. It's just Square Enix being weird. Hopefully, my opinion, I think they are waiting to get the Game Pass check from Phil Spencer. That's my prediction.
Yeah, the money bag.
Yeah, like they want the bag up front, and it just seems like a very Square Enix thing to do. Like, look at the Octopath Traveler. That was just randomly announced for Xbox, and it was day one in Game Pass, but the sequel didn't come over. It's like from what we've been told by like Phil Spencer and that, like sometimes the Game Pass check sometimes covers the complete cost of the development of the game, even if we just get a port. And it's like I don't know. It's like Square Enix being money grubbing and all that stuff. They probably want the Game Pass check, and it wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, that's
I
enough.
hope we get the sequel for that because I love Octopath, so I really hope we get the sequel. And I mean, Sarah Bond did include Square as one of their quote partners in Japan that they're working with or want good relations with. I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like they're being very good partners right now, but maybe that can change, and if it can, great. But it definitely are not seeing the fruits of that right now.
Before we continue, Logan, you're botting out a bit, so I don't know if you have a download going on. Anyway, we'll continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. But yeah, it's a weird. Although I personally think when Sarah Bond posted the Square Enix tweet, I just like to think that maybe she hit predictive text by accident and Square Enix accidentally came up because that's the only thing that makes sense in my opinion. But yeah, anyway, we'll move on. Okay, here we go. Um, Justice League. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It's been in development for years by Rocksteady. I've loved their past games, and they've been saying for years now that it's single player or 4 player co-op. It's not a live service title, and basically all was good until last night when the menu leaks and it had a battle pass mention. A single player game slash co-op with a battle pass. Now, apparently, the battle pass is just for cosmetics, which okay, fair enough. But I don't know, like when it comes to skins and all that stuff, wouldn't you go with a season pass or a DLC pass? But the fact that it's called a battle pass and it looks a bit games of a servicey, that's a word. I don't know. It's just weird. And the thing is, they had such a good formula for the Arkham games. Like they could pump out an Arkham game every few years and it'll sell gangbusters. But this Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game, it could be a bit of a risk because people look at it now thinking, is this going to be like Avengers? Because we all know what Avengers was like, and it's that was meant to get content for years, and like things like the Black Panther expansion for the Avengers game didn't even have achievements. Like, what the hell are you doing? And I don't know, I'm just worried about this because I've always wanted to have a open world Metropolis, bear in mind with Superman, but this is set in the Arkhamverse. Batman's going to be, in the game. Green Lantern, Flash, Wonder Woman, Cyborg. The list goes on, and Superman. And it just feels like even though the game releases in May, they might, what's that term? Fumble the ball. I don't know, Logan. Like, what's your thought? Because like the whole games as the service thing today kind of scared people. I think you muted, Logan. There we
Can you
go.
hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Sorry, you were cutting out a minute. I don't know. I think people are just distrusting of the games as a service when they hear that phrase. It's like a trigger phrase now. for things like microtransactions for a long time were a trigger phrase. I think it might just be partly that, but when you make it sound like a game is not going to be that way, and then lo and behold, it leaks, and there are elements of the thing you said it wasn't front and center, that makes people distrust the company more, and I don't know, it's just not putting out good vibes.
Yeah, I mean, like when you go from having these excellent Arkham games, and we'll talk about the game when it comes out. It could end up being like pretty excellent, but like when you have these excellent Arkham games one after another, even Origins, I loved Origins, and they go to this live service esque type game. Like people look at a battle pass now and they kind of roll their eyes, think it's multiplayer, and it's not going to be the single player or co-op experience they want, and it's like the game they've shown so far looks amazing, and all they have to do, and I know it's not, it might be stifling innovation or whatever, but all they have to do is literally make an Arkham game with different characters. Like it cannot be that difficult. I'm not a developer, I know that, but like it can't be that hard to like make sequels and spin-offs in existing universes with the same format that people like. Not games as a service stuff. Like do people really want a battle pass in a single player superhero game? No, they don't. Who wants that? Nobody. And I'm just worried that the game won't sell well because, like, Gotham Knights, I tell you, Gotham Knights, people were angry about that game. Because even though there's no DLC at all, although I will preface this, you can actually pay for the deluxe edition pack by itself. But that game doesn't have any microtransactions at all. Kirby Louise said, do people even want a battle pass at all? I don't. I don't like battle passes. By the way, bit of a tangent. I'm going to rant a bit. I don't understand the point of a battle pass. I'll use Call of Duty as an example, right? You pay for the game $70 up front, or $90 if you want the cross-gen bundle, which is a rip-off, by the way. You pay for this battle pass, I'm doing air quotes, which allows you to do challenges to earn cosmetics and equipment. So, where's the logic in that? You're paying for the ability to unlock stuff? That just blows my mind. I granted for free-to-play games such as Fortnite or Halo Infinite multiplayer or whatever is free, I get it. They have to fund the game somehow. But a battle pass, in my opinion, is freaking stupid. It makes no sense. And I get like these companies want to monetize games constantly, but like if you go back to the Xbox 360 generation, we were getting single-player expansions for all sorts of games. BioShock, the Batman games, GTA, the list goes on, Red Dead Redemption. And a lot of these expansions were incredible. Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. And now it's like they don't want to create these extra pieces of content that get our money. They just want to constantly charge us for things like cosmetics and upgrades and experience boosters. And it's like, the reason I reminisce so much about the 360 generation, it's because it was better. like it was so much easier. Like everything now is just, it's bad. I'm an optimist, but I have to admit, like the 360 generation with the PS3 and the Wii was just better. Like I'm sick of battle passes. People talking about bloody what's that thing? Skill-based matchmaking. I don't want to get into it, but like it's cringe. I can't be bothered with it. Can we go back to 2010? Like it was such a better time. I'm just reminiscing now. But anyway, having a battle pass in a single player game just seems stupid. I don't understand it. That game's going to be $70. $70 for, let's just assume, a 25-hour game. Okay, fair enough. And then you pay for skins. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And, look at Arkham Knight. That actually had tiny expansions. Right, the Harley Quinn thing, you could finish in about 5 minutes. It had a bunch of skins. Some of them were cool, but I thought the season pass for Arkham Knight was definitely not worth the £15 they charged at all. Like Logan, did you play Arkham Knight and get the season pass at all? Because that was a rip off.
I bought like the gold edition on sale. Like there was one point when there was during one of the end of year sales, they had like the Arkham trilogy on sale, like the gold edition and all that other stuff for like a really like $20 or something. They came with all three games and season pass and stuff. So I bought it like that, but I would tend to agree that I think a lot of these companies have been just kind of shoehorning in content or trying to come up with ways to kind of have gotcha moments where you have to pay just to get a little bit extra content instead of like the 360 era to me still remains king on when it came to balance or how DLC and expansions worked. Like you mentioned single player games like Skyrim had phenomenal expansions like um, Dragonborn, and then Dawnguard, and all these other like then the Home and Hearth expansion, all these things, or Oblivion. I know people make jokes about the horse armor, but Shivering Isles and Knights of the Nine were really good. And shouts to Obsidian for continuing the trend of really good expansions for an RPG with their Outer Worlds expansions, which are phenomenal, by the way. So just and like back then, for like Halo 3, Halo Reach, whatever, you would buy a map pack and it would come with a bunch of maps or something instead of waiting for 2 years for the company to get their act together to come up with two maps, period. Not three per pack. Two. And it's just, I don't know. I'm a bit salty and reminiscent of that era. I'm not a bitter old man or anything, but I think there are some things that we left behind that we shouldn't have left behind, and that we should try to find a way to bring forward.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be a bit of old man today because I missed the 360 generation too much. Like, it was so easy. You turned on your 360, you went on Xbox Live, all the cool games were right at front and center, and it was just fun. You know, like, you weren't nickel and dimed every 5 seconds. Nobody was talking about NFTs or blockchain or any of that stuff. You bought your game, you had your game. And by the way, remember during the Xbox 360 generation where most games launched without bugs?
Yes, and they didn't have like a 50 gigabyte update on day one.
And
And
by
you'd put the disc in and you'd play it. It was amazing.
Yeah, and like I know this isn't meant to be a reminiscent podcast, but like I remember putting Battlefield 3 in the disc tray, right? And it said there's an update needed. It was 3 megabytes. And at the time, even though I had fast internet, like back when that came out, I rolled my eyes and thought, okay, let's get this over and done with. And now it's like I put in a game and I get like, oh, you've got a 62 gigabyte update. And it's like, no, that's bigger than the game. Like, but yeah, I wish we can go back to a simpler time. And yeah, look, I hope the Justice League game is great. I want more good superhero games. The Wonder Woman game, we're probably going to see more of this year. That is single player, and it's going to have the Nemesis system with enemies and allies, which should be cool. Although I have heard that game is going to be set in Themyscira and New York. I'm not entirely sure about that, but hey, it could be cool. I think it's just cool that we're going to get a Wonder Woman game. But yeah, I'd be interested. Do other people in chat miss the 360 generation and how simple it was? Or am I just looking too fondly at my shelf thinking it was so much better? It just felt like it. Anyway, we'll move on. Enough about NFTs and games as a service stuff for now. Okay, so Jason Schreier, we know the dude I'm talking about. Put out a post like a few weeks ago or whatever, and I couldn't see it from his account because he blocks everyone that likes Xbox. Someone posted a screen grab of it, and he's on about how games that aren't revealed now won't release this generation. And I had to think about that. And I thought, what a crock of crap. Like, I've noticed this generation we have developers that are wanting to shorten the time between game reveal and game release. For instance, Back 4 Blood, whether people like it or not, it was announced with a CGI trailer. Then 2 minutes later, we got gameplay, and it released a year later. Aliens Fireteam Elite was announced with a CGI trailer and gameplay, and it released about 7 months later, 6 or 7 months later. And we've had a bunch of games like that. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, that's basically going to have a year and a half from proper announcement, till release. And I don't think that's the case. Because if that was the case, the next 5 years are going to be grim. like you're going to have this monumental year that is 2023 of gaming. And then all of a sudden, we're just going to have 5 years of nothing. Like, I think that is a ridiculous statement. When it comes to things like, I don't know, the next Red Dead Redemption, obviously, that's years away. GTA is still years away. And, and by the way, I don't agree with 90% of what Jason Schreier, whatever he's called, I don't agree with what he says. And, so Shady just put in chat, Fallout 4 launched less than 6 months after being revealed. That's true. I remember that. It was announced, huge big deal. I think it was in May, and it released in October. And that was a huge game. Fallout was absolutely massive. And I don't think it's just as cut and dry that the game that gets announced now is 4 years away. Look at Judas. That was announced at the Game Awards. That's probably going to release later this year or early next year. So I just think developers are wanting to keep their mouths shut and not have things leak. Because we talked about this before the show. Josh Sawyer from the developer of Pentiment was talking about leaks and how that damaged the game a bit. And I have to agree, because as someone that had leaks for Pentiment, the game had no description of what its art style was or its gameplay. It just said, it's like a 16th century murder mystery game. That's it. So people start thinking, is it third person? Is it first person? Is it over the shoulder? Isometric? Nobody knew. I have videos on this channel where I'm talking about Pentiment before it's even revealed. And I'm talking about it, wondering what genre it is, what camera perspective, what art style. And when the game was revealed, people were like, it's this, old style cartoon thing. Although I love its art style. I think it suits really well. But games leaking all the time now, which ruined the reputation. Again, we were talking about the Justice League game. That's ruined its reputation already off a single image, And Logan, you were talking about this before the show, but do you think the whole shortening lengths between announcement and release is becoming shorter because developers are sick of leaks? Because it clearly bothers developers.
Yeah, I do think there is a connection. You have guys like Snitch or Insider Gaming or, the various podcasts or, YouTube content creators out there who have access to some things that others haven't been as privy to, and they take it upon themselves and release some stuff. Whether you have to juggle it, because it's part of it is journalistic credit, and you have a job, you receive information, you verify it, and you're okay, this is accurate. I could write a story on this, and I get paid to make my living writing the story. So yes, you're doing your job. I mean, I totally get that. So that on one hand, there's that. On the other hand, it's the artists are dude, what the heck? You said my game is going to be like this, when that's not at all what it's going to be like. Yes, it is theoretically a murder mystery, but when you throw it out there that it's going to be like Disco Elysium, or throw it out there it's going to be like this or this, people get one image in their head, and then when it comes out that it looks like it's a smaller title, very intimate narrative, beautiful hand-drawn, but it is definitely not what popped in my head when I first heard about the game. I had a vastly different image in my head of what this game was going to be than what was revealed. I love it. I think it's amazing, but it is definitely not what my initial impression was based on the leaks. And so you get this kind of double-edged conundrum where it's like these companies are way too daggum secretive about these things. They're games, for crying out loud. They're not matters of national security. Like it it's not state secrets. It's we're making a game about a spy who has cool little gadgets and travels the world, or we're making a sequel to a game that people have been wanting for a very long time, and people are chomping at the bit for more information. When you have a company that runs a ship and keeps it locked up tighter than Fort Knox, then people get really antsy and get angry and get mistrusting of the companies. Like, there needs to be a balance for transparency where they're more open about what they're working on and be like, okay, this is an early stage, or this is something we're planning or would like to do. What do you guys think about that? Like, be more transparent and open, but at the same time, I understand why they're not, because crap like this happens to where the game is said to be one thing, it looks completely different. People are like, I was lied to, I was misled, this is bogus, this isn't what I signed up for. I'm like, dude, they never said they were making that game. Somebody just leaked that and put it out there that wasn't in charge of the project themselves. And how he talked about how they're not even allowed to address these things if they're leaked. Like a lot of times, like he said, I had to just sit on my hands and watch while people spread all this stuff about the game and attack my reputation and say, oh, he can't do this or this or this. And then it's like my hands are tied, NDAs or this or that. It seems like a crummy policy, and there needs to be a happy medium somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's times where we get a logo for a game and then nothing. And then we get an announcement, like Elden Ring, right? Elden Ring, 2 years before release, we got a CGI trailer of a dude hammering shit. Well, shouldn't swear on this YouTube channel now, but hammering stuff. And then a year later, we got a gameplay trailer. And then a year and 2 months later, the game released. And obviously, people love Elden Ring. I love Elden Ring. It's borderline masterpiece in my opinion. And that game had a really cool like announcement cycle. But if you look back, it was announced years beforehand, and it was rumored to be announced 2 years before that. So you've got to wonder, like you said, there has to be a happy medium, because you look at Fable, right? We got the CGI trailer for Fable 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, and it's like, we don't know when that game's coming out. Not really. There's rumors and stuff, but like a CGI trailer to its release, should that really be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Because for some of these games, that is the case. You know, Hellblade 2 was announced, although I do agree with Hellblade's, marketing cycle, because during 2021, Ninja Theory couldn't work in the offices. That because all the offices were shut in the UK. So I get it for Ninja Theory, but like, I don't know, it's just weird. Like hearing Jason Schreier, whatever you call him. By the way, I'm not actually trying to make fun of his name. I just don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, I don't think that's the case. We will see games announced this year at E3, and they'll release this year. There's also going to be games announced this year that will release next year. Like, that is the case. Not a single percent of me actually believes that is actually going to be the case, where we wait in 5 years for games. That's just, no, it's not happening. Again, the Bioshock game is rumored to come out this year. Don't know if there's any truth to it, but a lot of developers now are crunching down on leaks, because leaks completely ruin E3, game showcases. I remember, I think it was about a day before Elden Ring had gameplay reveal at the Game Awards, gameplay leaks, and people were hyped because you could jump. Like that stuff leaks, and it looked pretty rough in the game. And then when we saw it, it looked fantastic. So, yeah, it's going to be a weird generation, but I think just for leaks and stuff, although I do think that the window between announcement and full game reveal and release is going to shorten significantly. Like, way significantly. Because remember, Hogwarts Legacy which we'll talk about in a bit, and things like, Gotham Knights was meant to release originally in 2020, but it was delayed over and over and over again due to the pandemic and stuff. But yeah, it's a weird time. It's just a weird generation because we started the generation in a pandemic where we had no E3 to hype up the new consoles with the new software, and it's just been this cycle for 2 years where most games were getting delayed over and over and over again. First and third party. Thankfully, that's slowing down now. Things are getting better, but yeah, I don't believe a word that Jason Schreier says. Anyway, we'll move on, unless you have anything else to say on the topic, Logan.
Oh, just that I would agree with him on one point, that I do think in general the bigger games are having longer development cycles. It seems to be that way. But I definitely don't agree with the idea that if a game hasn't been announced now, it is not going to be this gen. Like, I can see that there will be some games like that, probably. Like, remember Eclipse was announced, Star Wars Eclipse, and they said that's not due till like 2028. That was already announced, and that's shaping up to potentially be a next gen game or end of this gen game. But I definitely think there will be some games that have been in development for a long time that just haven't been announced. And they will announce them and release them sooner than you would expect. I don't think all games are. I think the blanket statement is what makes it not entirely accurate. But I do think there will be some games that come out that we're not going to see for a while. Or there will be some that are released pretty soon, a la Fallout 4, where, you have it at May, and then, poof, November, it's out, released, collector's edition, Pip-Boy, everything. So, I'm just curious to see, overall, what most games end up being going forward.
Yeah. Just sorry for people in chat, the bots finally arrived. Every time. It's like, people can't be that horny all the time. Come on. Anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, it's a weird time. But some games, yeah, Red Dead Redemption, all that stuff. That Star Wars game that was announced way too soon. Like 2028, really? Is that what we're talking about now? Anyway, we'll move on. I think it's time to talk about Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Now, I want to say this. This is going to be like a 3-4 kind of topic where, first up, let's get the easy stuff out of the way. It's performance and resolution, right? Finally, they came out the other day. It's going to have a 60 FPS performance mode. I think they said 1440p, which is cool. I'll probably play it at that. It will have a 1080, or shall I say a 4K ray tracing mode, which cool. Like, here's the thing, right? There's a lot of people that don't actually care about frame rates. They just want to play the game at its best possible, gorgeous graphics. And hey, play Hogwarts Legacy at 30 FPS with your 30 FPS magic and your 30 FPS, what do you call it? Hogwarts. It's just weird. Anyway, 60 FPS is going to be a thing for the game, and I think it's cool. Like, they came out up front and told us. Some developers have kind of shied away from that. Gotham Knights, they didn't tell us what the case was and all that stuff. And it's all good. The length of the game is interesting. So some people have had a negative reaction to this. So it's 35 hours to finish the main story, just the main story, and it's about 70 to 75 hours to do 100% completion. And I've seen quite a backlash online about this. It leaked in the art book, and by the way, video game art books leak all sorts of game stuff. So if you want to find out video game leaks, pay attention to art books every single time. Every time. Sorry, I'm laughing about the bot comments. But yeah, so basically, it's going to be a long game, in my opinion. And if you look at it, like, you can finish Skyrim or like Fallout 3 in like 4 hours. If you know where to go, you can literally just finish the game outright. So I don't think it's going to be a case where, but like, there's going to be people that want to spend hundreds of hours in this game because there are mini games. There's, you can do dueling. There's a bunch of mini games in the yard you can do. And honestly, when I hear 35 hours for a main story arc in an RPG, that gets me excited because we've seen so many times this generation, in the past generation, where developers are making these 90-hour-long RPGs where it seems like there's no end in sight. Like, I loved Assassin's Creed Valhalla's gameplay, but I put like 90 hours into it and I barely made a dent. Barely. And I just don't need that with an RPG. I think 35 hours for a main story is absolutely brilliant. You're going to be going off wandering, leveling up your character, getting upgrading your spells. You have the Room of Requirement, which will help you learn stuff. So you have all that stuff to look forward to. And honestly, the game looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, as someone that's been a Harry Potter fan since I was a kid, I love the universe. I think I put it like this, during the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 generation, do you know how many Harry Potter games we had that weren't Lego? None. We didn't have any. Not a single one. The last Harry Potter game that was out on Xbox, outside of Lego games, was, I believe it was the Kinect game, and before that it was the Deathly Hallows Part 2, the video game, which was apparently atrocious. So I'd say the last good Harry Potter game was the Chamber of Secrets on the original Xbox. So that'll have been 2002, 2003. Like, that's been a long time. And now we finally have a AAA, fully realized Hogwarts, a fully realized AAA Wizarding World RPG. And it's coming out in a few weeks. And honestly, I put this out there, and we're gonna go deep into this game. I am gonna buy it day one. I'll talk about stuff in a bit, but honestly, if people want to buy this game, you're good to get it because buying a game does not define your entire personality. Again, I'll talk about this in a bit. But Logan, what's your thought on Hogwarts Legacy, its game length, its performance, and all that Hogwarts Legacy goodness?
I'm stoked for it. Honestly, I'll admit I'm not the biggest Harry Potter person. Like, my sister is the big Harry Potter junkie in the family, but I enjoy Harry Potter, and it just, even like taking aside the Harry Potter elements of it, like if you had just showed me this game without Harry Potter associated with it at all, I'd have been blown away. Just add into it all the lore and everything from Harry Potter and the houses and everything. It's just mind blowing what they've created. It looks phenomenal. Yes, I'm annoyed about some of the exclusive content, this, that. It's minor, but still, it's just annoying. But the performance sounds great. The game looks awesome. It looks beautiful. It'll run great. Story, the characters, the customization, just... It's not going to be a day one for me, because I just already have a significant backlog and some other stuff I'm playing right now. But it's definitely one I will be picking up. And I personally hope it succeeds and does really well for the developers. And because they've put a lot of work into it, you can tell. And it looks phenomenal to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at this game outside of like the Game and Sphere bubble, like, it is a gorgeous looking game. And really think about it. We get fantasy RPGs all the time. And if people follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I'll whine on Twitter about there not being enough single-player sci-fi games. Like, I'm triggered. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Where's my sci-fi games? I can't find any, And one of the reasons why I play Mass Effect so many times is because nobody's wanting to copy success. And that really bothers me, right? Copy the game. Damn it. Be inspired. Anyway, but we get fantasy RPGs all the time. Every Tuesday. You've got your trees all over the place and grinding, and there's loot and all that stuff. And we like every fantasy RPG. I roll my eyes because it's the same bloody thing over and over and over, and that's why I crave sci-fi games, sci-fi RPGs.
You can only kill so many giant rats.
Yeah, I mean, like orcs, cool, elves, gravy, but like I just want some sci-fi. And then you have this Hogwarts game where we don't have any RPGs like this. Fully realized 3D AAA Magic School RPG with rich lore. And, Warpig in chat just mentioned a Star Trek game coming this year. I'm buying that day one. It's set after the Dominion War, which is a timeline we haven't had in video games in about 20 years. Yes, I'm a Star Trek nerd. Anyway, Hogwarts Legacy. It's going to be the first RPG of its kind. And it looks amazing. It's set in the 1800s. It's 100 years before the Sorcerer's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone. Don't know why I'm using the American name. Someone will take away my Brit card for that. But yeah, it looks great. And now, one of the reasons, and there's a bit of a tangent, I talk about wanting sci-fi RPGs. I honestly believe, putting this out there, and a developer can reply to me if they want, I honestly believe the reason we see so many fantasy games is because it's easier to generate and make hills with trees than big realized sci-fi cities. I'm just putting it out there.
I would agree with that.
Because, look at Cyberpunk 2077. Like, a fully realized city. You look in the air and there's flying cars going around and stuff. And it's like, surely that is harder to make than yet another fantasy game with some caves. Oh, look, there's a castle and some trolls and... I'm sick of it, right? Granted, I do like fantasy games, but it's fantasy all the time. But that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about Hogwarts Legacy, because it's a new type of fantasy game. Another type of fantasy RPG we don't see is steampunk. We never see steampunk, ever, but this looks cool, And then let's talk about the drama. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about 100% of the drama, because if you know about the name Hogwarts Legacy and you happen to use Twitter, chances are you know what I'm talking about, right?
So a wee bit upset.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? I don't think that, if someone doesn't want to buy a game for a reason, that is absolutely awesome. They can do what they do. They are their own person, and I'll congratulate them for it. You be you. Let me be me. But I was raised not to tell people what to do. It's considered rude, right? And the problem I'm seeing online is that if you apparently buy Hogwarts Legacy, talk about it in a positive light, you are labeled as a bad person. That doesn't make any sense. I grew up in the northeast of England, where pretty much everyone where I live is accepted. Doesn't matter what your sex is, your religion, your sexual preference, what you identify as. Nobody cares. As long as you're a good person, it's all gravy, in my opinion, right? And people are being judged for just wanting to play this game about being a child in a magic school. And that just blows my mind. People wanting to live out their fantasy in this game. And it's just a game. I'm supporting developers that have spent 5 years making this big open world game with lots of passion. I don't care about the artist. I should say the creator of the IP. I don't care. In fact, I've been a fan of the Harry Potter license since I was a child. I didn't even know who was behind it until 5 years ago, because I just don't care, right? I don't care. I can separate the artist from the art, and that's what people need to do. And I find it absolutely horrible that if someone is on Twitter posting pictures, screenshots, excitement over Hogwarts Legacy, and people are calling them bad things, those hypocrites are posting from devices made in sweatshops. Where's the logic? Because if you're tweeting from an iPhone or an Android phone, it was made with slave labor. Correct? Well, shouldn't you not be buying phones? Shouldn't you be boycotting those phones? I don't normally talk about this stuff on the channel because this is where people should go to listen about gaming. But I have a point. Why are you using a device that was made under slave labor in a country where they get paid pennies on the dollar per hour? Where they have to put nets outside of buildings because of the horrific work schedule and environment. But buying a video game is just as bad. And it's no, get off your moral high horse and just be like, stop it. Like, let people be who they want. Let people buy the games. Like, if we're meant to accept each other all the time, let people accept each other. Don't judge someone's personality on a bloody game sale. That is pathetic. It's pathetic, and I'm sick of saying it all the time. And I really hope journalists do their bloody job when this game releases and report on what the game is, how good it is, what's it about, and don't bring up any of these issues because that's not what people are in for. Nobody cares about the creator of the IP. People like to be angry because if people are going to be angry about the creator of the IP, do you know what? They have to be angry at every Wizarding World product. They have to be angry at the companies that make advent calendars, pencil cases, phone cases, stickers. But no, all eyes are on Hogwarts Legacy. And if you buy it, you're a bad person. Well, guess what? I don't care what someone identifies as. I don't. If they're a good person, that's all good. I don't care what people's religions are. As long as they are a good person, I don't care. And these people are just angry about this video game and judging you. Don't judge people. Stop being stupid. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter. Logan, have you got any thoughts on it?
Basically, mine mirror yours, pretty much. It's just like I I look at it as I am supporting the work of these devs who have put blood, sweat, and tears that come from multiple backgrounds all over the world who've come together for their love of this franchise and want to make something beautiful for people to enjoy. That to me is like, isn't that what we should support? Like something that brings joy and goodness. And instead of focusing on some stuff that is behind the scenes and from someone outside of this direct product itself that is, completely detached from this. Yes, person's name is associated because yes, person made product. Yes, person gets royalties. That's just how legal licensing and everything works. I mean, you make a product, you own it, and you license it out, you get some stuff. It's just business. It's how it works. But the fact that you want to just basically, mess over a bunch of people who have nothing to do with that and don't hold those beliefs and values and other things that are offensive to a lot of people, then it's just it's like shooting yourself in the foot. It's like depriving yourself of something good because of someone bad that has nothing to do with this. And it's I don't know. I can just already see it. It's just toxic. Like I've been tempted just to mute anything Harry Potter related. Period. Honestly, because it's just like every day, like someone posts something and they're excited about the game or potential play or something about the franchise, and then it comes in with, "Oh, you're a this, or that because you're excited about it or you like it." And it's like, that couldn't be further for the truth. I'm all for just like, you're a good person, you treat other people well, you're good to me, I'm good to you, we're all happy here. You live your life, I live my life, just be good to each other and let's have a nice world. But that's what I'm about. So to me, like people attacking others because it goes against what they prefer on certain things because someone else has a different view on how to handle the situation just seems unnecessarily toxic and messy to me. It feels like this has just gotten to this whole cancel thing to where it's like everybody's rushing to destroy or tear down something instead of finding the good in things. And that to me is just more of a red flag of society than anything. But in general, I'm excited for the game. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna support the devs. I hope others do too. If others don't want to buy it, then I totally understand. Everybody has their own views on things. I know there are some games that I personally have problems with and don't like that are very popular, and other people love them. And I don't judge them for playing them or buying them and supporting them, even though they go against certain things I think about or believe. So it's just, at the end of the day, I just think it's just it's become just this big, just toxic whirlwind of negativity, and people just looking for someone to get mad at and be angry at instead of just trying to find something good to focus on. And it's a shame. And I really hope it doesn't ruin it, even though I know almost you can almost take it to a bank. There's going to be outlets, the publications out there that focus on these types of drama, and they'll put these pieces out there slamming people who buy it or slamming, you know, developers or trying to make these smear campaigns and whatever. And it's a shame, and I hope people that want to play it feel comfortable and safe and happy to play it, and just don't let bullies online steer you away from something you want to do if you believe it is okay for you personally.
Well said, man. This is probably going to be the only time where we talk about serious stuff. So I hope everyone enjoyed it because I'm not bringing up these topics ever again. I like to make fun about things. I like to have a laugh. Serious stuff is not for me. I can take it or leave it. Anyway, while we're talking about it, there's people I don't like. People that don't like Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I could talk about that all day. But yeah, a bit of a tangent. Well, same topic. Speaking of Hogwarts Legacy, it's number one best-selling game on Steam, and it's number one best-selling game on Amazon for PlayStation, and I think it's number 2 on Xbox. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Now about an hour and a half into the show. Again, if people are enjoying the show, it really helps if you share, subscribe, like, super chats all live and all that stuff. If you want to do that crap. Anyway, we'll move on. This is a game we're going to talk about. Excuse me. And it's a game I kind of let go of. And it's a game I accepted will never be a thing because it got cancelled in 2016 or 17. I'm talking about Scalebound. We're going to keep this short. There's rumours flying about at the minute that Microsoft is now working again with Platinum Games to resurrect Scalebound. Now, I'll get my opinion out of the way first. I let the game go, right? Well, wipe my hands clean of it, done and dusted. You know that meme of the traumatized dog? Like, that's me with Scalebound.
The Vietnam and the PTSD and flashbacks. Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember 2016 and 2017 very well. Can we not do this dance again? Like, that was not entertaining. Like, and honestly, I've spoken about this before. I honestly think, and people can disagree with me if they want, that's all cool. I don't think Microsoft should work with Platinum Games because they have a proven track record to not work with Microsoft well. Like, in the time Scalebound was announced and cancelled, they released like 4 to 6 games or something for other companies, but they couldn't get Scalebound done. It ran at about 2 frames per second at E3. At E3, when you have the biggest stage in the world to show a game off, and then they put all of the blame on Microsoft, or I should say, let Microsoft take all the blame, and then they let like 4 years pass, and they go, "Oh well, guess it's our fault too." Huh? Sorry, Microsoft. And that really irked me, and because like Microsoft for years, like people were getting clickbaited and like saying Microsoft destroyed Scalebound, blah 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 blah. And it's like, it turns out Platinum Game was kind of their fault too. But they let Microsoft take all the blame. And that just ended up being years of fanboy fodder. And honestly, this rumor that's came about Scalebound coming back, I kind of wish it's not true. Because I would prefer that Microsoft worked with a different developer. Work with Atlas. Work with anyone else. Let Ninja Theory do it. Just not Platinum Games. Because remember, when their bank account was going low, remember last year they were saying, "Oh, we wouldn't mind being purchased." Wouldn't you now? By the company that's spending billions on other companies. My opinion, if the game ever gets released, I'll play it. But honestly, I think its time has passed, in my opinion. Logan, what do you think? Because Scalebound's been years in the trash, let's face it. Like I loved the game when it was first shown off, but it's been years, and do people really want that game to be resurrected? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on it. Like, on one hand, I think most projects, not all, but most that are canceled, have very good reason why they are canceled. They are either shoddy pieces of, just software, or the gameplay is unplayable, or just it's blown past the budget limitations or the staffing, or there's drama behind the scenes, or there's generally a very good reason why a project is canceled. Not always, but there's generally a good reason. But having said that, there have been some games throughout history that have been in movies and shows and other things that have been canned, and then further down the line, either new leadership comes in or some new blood for staff or just a change in climate, whatever you call it, where you can revisit that idea and go, you know what? Back then, we weren't ready for this responsibility or this type of project. But now, we have a different idea or different take or more experience to where we could properly handle this. So, on one hand, I could see that as well. But have to be careful with this, all this allegedly, this and this and that. But Platinum and Xbox, just in general, I just don't see it as a great idea to work with them again. But if they think that they can be trusted and that they can handle it, then okay. Me, I would let them do it if this was not going to be a majorly expensive project. If Platinum wanted to take the majority of the onus and focus on it and get it done as a sense of pride and a sense of we are going to prove people wrong and we are going to make something out of this thing that's become a meme and never ending joke and make it into an actual awesome dragon game, then heck yeah, sign me up. That sounds awesome. But if they want like huge commitment and resources and this and that, manpower, time, etc., to make this game, when you look at their recent track record, aside from Near Automata, it hasn't been so hot. Have you heard the tragedy of Babylon's Fall? I it's not been so good, man.
Yeah,
So I kind of just I don't know, like Phil's okay with it and says like we'll give you a short leash on it, and if you want a small passion project, try to get it done, and it comes out great. If it doesn't, cool. I'm good with that, but I, I'm kind of paranoid about it, and personally, I think a Ninja Theory or somebody would be better with it. But if they just they have a vision and belief in it, then okay.
Babylon's Fall, like that ends completely this year, and that one player must be like heartbroken. Poor bugger. But yeah, I'd prefer them to work with someone like I would love to see what Microsoft and Atlas would come up with together because people love Persona at the minute. You know, I love what I've played from Persona 5. Oh, and by the way, while we're talking about Persona and Atlas, it's going to be Persona 4 Golden is going to be 120 frames per second on Xbox Series X apparently, which is cool stuff. But yeah, like I prefer them to work with someone else. Like they burn too many bridges in my opinion, and I honestly think like unless they come out and say like this game is going to look like this and play like this and it looks great, fine, cool, I'd be all for it. But like I don't know, I just want them to work with Atlas. We'll move on because like Scalebound is a tiring subject. For some reason online for the past week, half week, there's been this weird hype train for Quantum Break. Now, I put this out there. I love Quantum Break. I love Remedy's games in general. I like their storytelling and all that stuff. And this past week, Sean Ashmore on Twitter has been retweeting people, posting, clips and screenshots and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm not going to read too much into it because I think gamers can do that a lot. And I don't know, I would have done that a lot for this game. But, like, I love Quantum Break. It deserves a sequel. It ended on a major cliffhanger. But it is a bit weird how this week, there's just been a weird hype train for Quantum Break, isn't it?
Yeah, I loved Quantum Break. It is one of hands down the best games from that generation. I think it's criminally underrated. Remedy has long been my dream acquisition target if ever possible. Like, this might sound absolutely insane, but I would have taken them over Activision Blizzard. Like, I revere that studio. I love work they've done. They've done Control, they've done Max Payne 1 and 2, Alan Wake. It's just their stories, their characters, their gameplay. They're so engrossing and enthralling. And just Quantum Break, it was such a revolutionary idea, like this time mechanics, but also the branching narratives and a TV show thrown in with A-list talent, and it was awesome. The problem was it was on Xbox One when everybody and their mom and their dog was mad at Xbox for the 2013 E3 cluster. And anything associated with Xbox was like considered, hot garbage, even if it wasn't. This was just like Sunset Overdrive and Rise. Like, these are, like, Quantum Break is awesome, period. And it holds up incredibly well. And the fact that it's getting so much hype now, especially since Remedy now has the rights back. Microsoft was kind enough to sell them back the rights to Alan Wake so that they could put it on other platforms and then make a sequel that they always wanted to do. Like, to me, the handling of Alan Wake was another misstep of Xbox in the past. Quantum Break is a huge one. Just, I get that the TV show thing was not everybody's cup of tea and formatting that into it and all that, but if there's just some way that they could come together and make a sequel, you gotta get it to happen. I know Remedy's expensive, like how they do their projects, and they're kind of, innovative and they're different. They're not everybody's cup of tea, but you talk about a loyal following. Remedy fans are diehard, and it just, to me, it seems like a no-brainer that if Sean Ashmore and the crew at Remedy want to do a Quantum Break and you should absolutely greenlight that nanosecond, no questions asked, like, get it done. It, to me, that would be an amazing game exclusive for your platform. Period. Like, I love it so much, I would personally be okay with it being multi-platform if it just made it to where it could happen. I love it that much. But to me, it's just that it was damaged because of the Xbox One's image and launch. And if it wasn't for that, we would have had a sequel by now. And hopefully enough time has passed where they can let the sins of the father go and just let a sequel happen to that and some other games. It's time. It's a great game. They have interest in it. Let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, the Xbox One thing kind of ruined Quantum Break because, like, Microsoft were talking about Quantum Break being a long-term franchise. Like, they had faith in this. And I remember, because, again, I was on Twitter at the time, there was some screenshots floating around, official screenshots, and people were like, this game looks amazing. And there were Xbox screenshots, right? But people said there were PC screenshots because they looked too good. And then the resolution came out of the whole 720p checkerboard thing, and people automatically switched their minds from this looks amazing to this looks like crap. They were judging the graphics originally, but then they start judging the resolution, which are two different things. And, the TV show thing, Remedy's always experimented with live action segments in their games. They did it with Max Payne, they did it with Alan Wake's American Nightmare. And the whole idea of the live action stuff in Quantum Break has always been a bit misconstrued because people thought it was a TV show that they just put in the game because Microsoft cancelled their TV division and just put it in the game. The truth is, I'm doing air quotes, they live action cutscenes in a video game. But honestly, I think if they do another one, maybe just go with traditional cutscenes and choices, because I did enjoy the show, but again, it is jarring to go from play a game for an hour, half an hour of watching something, game for an hour, half an hour of watching something. And I say that as a Metal Gear Solid 4 fan. Like, there's cutscenes in that game that are like an hour long. It's a bit jarring at the end of the day, but hey, I hope the sequel comes. People need to keep talking about it. I know I'm going to. And yeah, and honestly, I thought it was better than Control. Might be a bit of a hot take, but I thought Control was nowhere near as good as Quantum Break, and I liked Control, but yeah, and the massive install size for the Quantum Break with its shows, oof, it's the thing that puts me off a bit.
Yeah, 130 something gigabytes, something like that, something obscene.
Yeah, and the thing is, right, you can stream it. You can stream the TV show bits, but here's the problem. I can see the difference. Like, I can see the difference between 1080p video and streaming 1080p. I can tell it from a mile away. Anyway, we'll move on. And on another thing that's been going around at the minute is a Gears collection. Now, the Gears collection has been rumored for years now. The reason I lean towards it being real is because they've already done one of the 3 games. Gears Ultimate Edition. That game is technically a remake, but most people don't really talk about it. They remade all the assets. They redirected all the cutscenes with new assets. Therefore, it's a remake, technically. But people like to call it a remaster because that's just how it's labelled. It's technically a remake. If we're going to call The Last of Us a remake, by the same definition, Gears Ultimate Edition is as well. But the difference is, you got more content, you got multiplayer, and it was $40. Just putting that out there. But anyway, it makes sense for Microsoft to do Gears 2 and 3. And personally, Gears of War 2 is one of my favourite games of all time. I would love to see it in, that gorgeous new style they did for Ultimate Edition. And I think it's been long enough. Like, my thoughts on remasters and remakes is that I think those types of games should be released in between big titles and not in place of them. So if you go back to 2015, Microsoft released Halo 5. And I think they had a Forza game that year, I can't remember. But they also released Gears in the summer. So that was just like their summer title, getting people ready for the next big game. And it's like, I think there's no problem if Microsoft, Sony, or whatever have these remasters or remakes or collections and just put them in between big releases. We'll call it filler, but it is what it is. But I have no problem with that, and I think it might be true because the rumor seems to not go away, and we know that the coalition is working on multiple projects, one being a new IP, which is a smaller game, one being the next Gears game, but most of these ports and remasters and remakes are made by port studios. And, if you look at Gears Judgment on the 360, that's one of the best looking games on that console. It has no resolution boost whatsoever, but if you play it on Xbox One or Series X, it looks phenomenal. And that released in summer 2013. Anyway, Logan, what's your thought on the whole Gears collection thing? Because that rumor is just not going away.
I'm all for it. I'm a huge, preservationist when it comes to games and franchises for backwards compatibility, and the idea of remastering them as an option is awesome. I would love a collection personally, because I do like pretty much a yearly playthrough of the Gears saga, Halo sagas. I love those franchises so much, those stories. That's why being able to have the whole franchise is so important to me personally. And so the idea of having them all upscaled or remade, redone with new assets or additions to mechanics like game.
And you bought it out, Logan. Yeah, I think Logan's bought it out because his logo's not moving. Logan, you're probably gonna have to leave and then come back in. Anyway, I think it's possible because they need these types of games for. Are you back, Logan?
Okay, I'm back.
There you
Sorry
go.
about that.
Sorry.
To me, just the whole idea of bringing them all together, just it seems like a no-brainer, and especially since you now have the hype of a Gears show finally happening, a Gears animated series and a Gears movie. So, if for once Xbox could get their marketing department all aligned on something and have this come out while everybody's hyped and excited about the other Gears announcements, and then you have the Gears card game coming. Like, this isn't a Sony podcast, but one thing they do really well that Xbox could learn from is their way of kind of like Marvel, where they have all this interconnected stuff that hits these timelines and thresholds to where they all promote and support each other in segments to where it makes sense. Like Last of Us Remake, I didn't think it was necessary at all. I frankly think the price was obscene for what it is. But I love The Last of Us. But still, the way they announced that and put it out there with the show, it makes sense from that cycle standpoint and getting interest and taking advantage of the wave. And to me, that is one area Xbox has to improve on, and it seems like a no-brainer to me. Marcus Phoenix collection would be a massive win, reinvigorate some Gears hype, and get people ready for Gear 6.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, have the hype rolling because again, Sony they kind of did it perfectly. They had the Last of Us air quotes remake in the summer, and the TV show just came out. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to. I can't. By the way, I haven't watched that yet because I can't stand television adverts anymore. I'm so used to on demand that, when you watch a TV show in the UK, you have 3 ad breaks in an hour, and that just kills me. I just can't do it. My patience is non-existent. But yeah, they do good with marketing. Although I will say this today, Sony put out an advert that was released a few days ago of games coming to PlayStation this year, and it shows things like Hogwarts Legacy, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and a bunch of multi-platform games, and it actually says at the bottom only on PlayStation 5. It's like you're lying with truth.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is technically next gen only games, but it's pretty it's a bit scummy. Anyway, but yeah, it looks like the Gears thing could be possible. I hope so. Again, Gears of War 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and I think that I've talked about backwards compatibility a bit and like why I'm okay with like bringing forward old games and why I'm okay with new games is because you have access to the old games still, right? So when Risen gets its new port, I think next week on Xbox, well, it's already backwards compatible. So you can buy the backwards compatible version if you want, or get the new one. And that should be the same with games. So if the Gears collection is a thing, you're still going to be able to play the Gears original games with upgrades, 60 FPS boost, and 4K. So in that case, everyone's a winner. And, as we talked about all this stuff, we have to move on into the Microsoft show on January 25th. This is going to be the first game show of 2023. And Microsoft, they came out and said, look, Starfield isn't going to be at the show. This looks like it's going to be mainly Redfall, but other stuff. One of the rumors is that there's going to be a smaller game made by Tango Software, and it's going to be a smaller game in the vein of Pentiment. Right, so smaller style game by a big developer, and again, I'm cool with those types of titles. We're going to see more of Redfall because that's likely to release first. That's rumored to be May 2nd. Actually, let me check the calendar. Yeah, it's rumored to be May 2nd, and it looks possible because we've already seen about 5 minutes of the game. It looks cool in my opinion. It's single player or 4-player co-op, and I don't know, the statement for the show says that we're going to find more about Xbox Game Pass titles, which is cool because this year, so far, we've had one list of Game Pass games, and that was 3 titles. It was Monster Hunter Rise and Persona 3 and 4, which we already knew about anyway, and people are wondering when's the next Game Pass list, and it looks like we're going to get that then, and honestly, I think we're going to get release dates for upcoming Microsoft games. Logan, what do you think? Because I severely need a drink.
All right, I'll buy you a minute, man. Um, yeah, it. I'm excited for it, and like first off, like I wanted to talk about the format. Like I'm excited for this new format personally. I've been one of the people who have not been exactly the most enthralled with how they've done their showcases in the past. I have found them to be too chatty, too like with some kind of cringy jokes thrown in, kind of just like in general, like they're just trying to fill space or with dialogue and some other stuff that's unnecessary. I've always kind of really liked how Nintendo's Direct and some Sony State of Plays, not all of them, have been kind of straight to the point. Like, here's the content you came to see. Here's the stuff. We'll have some deep dives with the devs who actually work on it, and they'll talk about it and show you gameplay, trailers. We'll have announcements, reveals, yada yada. That's it. And it's not just this kind of, I don't know, afternoon talk show kind of vibe to it. And so I'm excited about that first and foremost. And then for this particular episode, Redfall is like super big on my list. Like when it was first announced, I like a bajillion other people was thinking, okay, a Left 4 Dead type game. Okay, cool. I love Left 4 Dead personally, so I was like, this is awesome. Then you learn more and more about it, and you're like, oh, okay, that could not be further from the truth. This is not Left 4 Dead at all. This is like, um, this could be like a survival horror by yourself, or you squad up with friends like Borderlands, and it's like this really huge world. It's bigger than Prey, which I love. Phenomenal game. Needs a sequel. Could be a whole nother topic on an episode. But, and how that world was huge on this Talos space station. This dwarfs that. So you have this huge island town resort thing that you can explore by yourself or with friends. Single, you can do story missions or side quests or just goof around, roam around, do whatever. And it just, the gameplay looks awesome, the narrative, the lore, the mechanics, it looks so up my alley, and I'm just so excited for that. And then, uh, Elder Scrolls Online, I assume, is going to make an appearance since ZeniMax Online is going to be there. Would be cool if they maybe revealed that other thing they're working on, but I guess we'll wait and see. And then, obviously, Turn 10 is going to talk about the next Forza game. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Forza guy. I like Forza Horizon, the arcade style type racers, more than the hardcore Sims. But I'm sure it will be a visual spectacle. And then, like, the idea of Tango working on a small project sounds really fun to me. Look forward to that. And hopefully, some good Game Pass announcements. And thank goodness Xbox finally showed some they are paying attention cognition when they announced ahead of time Starfield won't be there. Because I would guarantee you, had they not said that, we get into that show, it could be an awesome show. And Starfield isn't there. Period. No one knew. And then you would just see so much whining online about where is Starfield? It's canceled, or what's wrong with this, or what's wrong with that, or why is Phil and Aaron not being honest and transparent about this?
Yeah.
It would be just awful, and you'd have to just mute like 3,000 accounts that day. It would just be, it would make the Dead Sea look tenable. It would be ridiculous. So I'm just glad that they went ahead and upfront said no Starfield. And a matter of fact, there is no Starfield because Starfield is so bloody important to us. It's getting its own huge blowout show at a later date. So you bet your bottom dollar that when we show Starfield, it is going to be worth showing up for. And it's going to be its own big thing. And you have that to look forward to. We're not hiding something. It's not in trouble. It's its own thing enough to where it needs its own show at a later date, not detract from these, and let them have some air. and then let Starfield have its own time. To me, they handled this. This is finally a sign of them listening to criticism, and this is why you give constructive criticism so that they can make fixes and changes like this. So, very happy about that.
Yeah, I have to agree with all that, man. Redfall. Obviously, we know about the Starfield thing. I think we're going to get the Redfall release date, the smaller title from Tango. Uh, we are going to hear about some stuff that we don't know about apparently. And obviously the Game Pass list, we haven't really had a substantial one. We don't know how, because for all we know, they could be changing the format of how we get Game Pass lists. Because every month we get two lists. I think it's the first Tuesday every month and like the second to last week of the month or whatever. But we get two lists every month. And I've always thought maybe they'll just go back to one, maybe in the middle of the month. I don't know. But also the Family Pass, family plan for Game Pass, because there's a lot of people that have big families and they share Game Pass, and this would make it cheaper and easier for families because like I don't have any use for a Game Pass family plan. At least not for years, I'm hoping. But like, there's a lot of people out there that would save money because of this. Because like at the minute, you'd have to spend a lot of money to get a family of, let's say, 4 people or something Game Pass. And plus all those people would be able to do Game Pass quests, because you can't do Game Pass quests if you're not a member with like an account. So obviously, if the Game Pass family plan is a thing, I'd assume that family members under the same plan would have access to Game Pass quests, meaning you get to, your family gets more Microsoft reward points. And if you've been following me for a while, I talk about Microsoft rewards because you can save a lot of money with Microsoft rewards. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good show. Again, third party stuff. We don't know what third party games. Many third party games are going to be in Game Pass over the next few months outside of War Long Fallen Dynasty and Atomic Heart. But I think it's going to be a good show. And like you're saying, the format, people, like, I love developer talk, but most people don't. Most people just want to see the game, a release date, what you can do in the game, and it's all good. And I think that's just what people want. State of play is pretty much that. Nintendo showcases is pretty much that. They can do the whole talking bit on YouTube or on Twitch at a different time. I think the format just needs to be games, and that pretty much looks like what it's going to be. And as for Starfield, well, we know in advance, so that's good in my opinion. And honestly, I think it's going to be a good show. They're going to be kicking it off on January 25th. I think it's going to be on every platform: Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, gaming, YouTube, all that stuff. I will say this: I do hope, and this is just probably me, I hope they announce more backwards compatible upgrades, because it's been a while.
Heck yeah. I wonder what Jason and his mighty wizard crew are working on. I bet they haven't been twiddling their thumbs for 6 months. That's for sure.
Like, I'm not a software developer or whatever, but I've always wondered, like, what exactly is the backwards compatible team doing for a year? Like, I could be reading too much into it, and it's just me. I don't want people to get the hopes up, but I like backwards compatible stuff, mainly with the Xbox 360 generation. But they could upgrade a lot of games, because sometimes you go back to an Xbox One game now, and it looks crusty. It really does. But you go back to a 360 game, which is the generation before, and it looks better. I don't know. It's the way anti-aliasing works in all the titles. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it for today. We've gone over pretty much all the topics. Again, it's been the first show of the year. Everyone in chat has been awesome, except for the bots, which I can't stop them, man. I try. There's another one right now. Oh my god, there's 2 of them. Like, everyone in chat's been awesome today. Logan, do you have anything to say on the topics we've just gone over?
No, I would add one footnote that I think it was in the notes, but we can maybe cover it more in depth another time. But the latest on ABK, if we even want to talk about it or not, just a basically, this thing is going to drag on a little bit longer. And a few, so now they're going to be doing stuff with the EU, where the EU is drafting up a statement of, these are our problems with your deal. and they'll send it to Microsoft, and Microsoft will go, okay, how do we fix that? And then they'll talk and either figure it out or do court, yada yada yada. So that's the biggest update from them. And then the FTC one is basically they're waiting and seeing how the other countries are going to do, and if other places go to litigation and make this a long drawn out thing, then it sounds like they're less likely to do concessions. But if they agree to concessions overseas at the EU and UK and get it at least done in those countries, then it becomes much more likely FTC comes to the table and they actually get something done and avoid court. But it's just we all want this topic to be done. It has been like it has been the most just long drawn out, just agonizing topic in gaming, maybe in a decade. It is just like the song never ends. But it has also been hugely important, so we have to talk about it. But I mean, like, I know I had that like thermonuclear take earlier about Remedy over Activision Blizzard, but I mean, part of that is mired in that this is just taking so daggum long, and it's just so monotonous. But just that's basically the latest on that.
Yeah, and for future topics, I'm aware that everyone on planet Earth is bored of the whole Activision thing, but we have to talk about it. But I think normally we wait till the end of the show to talk about Activision Blizzard. But honestly, it's an exciting year for gaming. We have way better topics to talk about as the main headline, show. Thank you, Soto Shady and chat for reminding me about the Transformers games. I still have them wrapped, ready to play. I prefer them to have them backwards compatible though. But yeah, anyway, we'll be talking about more stuff next week. We'll be back at the same time next week, next Tuesday, All Things Xbox podcast. Everyone in chat has been absolutely lovely once again, except for the bots. When it comes to my weekly videos, now they are actually coming back. I finished them. They are coming out. It's either it should be tomorrow and another one on Saturday. They've been pretty time-consuming videos. When you see the title and see the length of them, you'll understand why they took a while to get out. But back to weekly videos, so you can have a podcast and 1 or 2 weekly videos per week, plus some other stuff I'm working on, which is a pretty big project. Anyway, it's been good having everyone listening. We'll be back next week. We are out. Peace.